Hi, good morning. What is this? You might recognize this. This is I don't know what we call these, CD booklet storage case, folder, something like that. These were things you used to be able to find because, as you probably know, CDs take up a lot of space. And so not everyone has space. And so there was a period where people thought, aha, I'm going to throw away the plastic disc that's taking up all the space and that's heavy. When you put a bunch of them together, they do get heavy. You put 100 CDs in a box and you try and lift that and you see how heavy it gets. And I'm just going to keep the disc and I'm going to put it inside this kind of clear file folder. And I have made effective use of the space. I've kept the music and done away with the disc. In hindsight, I kind of regret doing that, but I had no choice. I'll kind of talk about this as I go through. So we see on the first page here, I've got 4 Air albums, Moon Safari. Now I've shown that before. I own not a lot of these. Some of these I own on the disc as well. Like as in I have the case. So I've basically got 2 copies, but only some of them. So we've got Air, Moon Safari, Virgin Suicides, 1000 Hertz, Legend, Love 2. So 4 Air albums, all with the booklet. So I was prescient enough to keep the booklet in that case. Now that is for Pocket Symphony. I don't know where the disc for that is, but I have I think it actually might be in this case. Some classical music CD. Don't know why I kept this. AFI Sing the Sorrow. I have that on, how can I call it? I have that intact. So intact means with the case. Amateurs. Now this is a great album. This one I do regret because this is something rare, and you actually very rarely see this nowadays. This is quite a rare thing. Amateurs are a French black metal, what would you call it? Post black metal, if that's such a thing. Post metal band from France. So I have to say they're French. And for whatever reason, I threw away the case. Now I got this in the last. What would I've got? Oh no, it would have been over 10 years ago. Probably about 13 years ago. But I recommend this album. So what? God, I'm all over the place. Throughout my life, the first CD I ever bought in my life, I was 13 years old. And I collected CDs throughout my teenage years while I was at school, while I was living at home, at my parents' home, as a kid, I guess. And I built up a pretty decent collection. I've talked about that before, how most of my disposable income as a youth, money you got for Christmas, money I got from part-time jobs, I spent on CDs. My first collection was stolen. So all the CDs I built up through my youth. So we also have some kind of CDRs interspersed as well. Beirut and the Beatles. Arcturus. Sorry, they're a Norwegian. How do you describe them? They're metal, but not metal in the traditional sense. Blur, I have that already on intact. Beastie Boys, Brooke Fraser. We talked about her the other day. The Bleeders, a New Zealand punk band. Beck, got both those intact. Cassius, I got that intact. So a lot of these are double ups. A lot of them are double ups. So anyway, yeah, my first CD collection was stolen. So I lost all those. So then I started rebuilding it through my 20s from scratch. And when I think about that first collection getting stolen, that still kind of stings a little bit because I had a lot of good stuff in there. A lot of 90s alternative rock, which was my kind of my wheelhouse in my youth. But then I left home, as in, moved out of my parents' home, and through my late teens and 20s, I worked jobs and I went to university and worked more jobs. And then I went overseas to work overseas and Collective Soul. Now, this is another very rare. Well, man, like when I think about this, I regret some of these. Canyon Country. You're not going to find this nowadays in print. You're going to have to buy this secondhand if you can find it. And someone's going to jack the price up because it's secondhand. These guys, I don't even know who did this. John Everett, Nick Huntington. Anyway, Canyon Country. That's also got kind of like this weird, woozy country music, country electronic, dream sounding music. Very kind of unique. Anyway, what was I saying? So what all the CDs that I bought through my 20s, I was constantly having to kind of find places to put, because I'd lived somewhere for a while, like in a flat or with a girlfriend or something, but then I'd move out and my situation would change, or I'd move overseas, and so you'd have to find somewhere to put these things. And when you're storing stuff, when you're moving around and you're having to store things, people don't want boxes and boxes of CDs. Like they're willing to keep some of your shit in their house. I've stored some of my stuff at my dad's work. My dad worked in this garage, and at my parents' house sometimes I'd store stuff there while I was away, or in between. But people don't want boxes upon boxes of CDs with the cases. So my solution was like, okay, I'm going to throw away the cases and just keep the music that I want in these kind of folders. So at least I'll have the disc, or at least I'll have the music. And in some ways, I had no other option. Cavalera Conspiracy, Max Cavalera and Igor Cavalera, the Cavalera brothers, formerly of Sepultura's side project. Chemical Brothers, The Clash. I've got both of those intact. Crowded House. Daft Punk, Dream Theater. I've got that intact. Dream Theater. What's that? Black Clouds, Silver Lining, Train of Thought. Yeah, we've got some CDRs here. Falling into Infinity Images. I've got a lot of Dream Theater. Depeche Mode, I've got that intact. Day One, I've got that intact. Devin Townsend, The Physicist. So his stuff is pretty hard to find as well. I find like I'm a big fan of Devin Townsend, and finding his stuff, unless it's the ultra recent stuff, like the stuff he's doing with like Lightwork and the stuff he released. Empath, the stuff, the Inside Out era, like Ocean Machine, Physicist, Infinity, Terrier. Very, very rarely going to find that anywhere. You're almost always going to have to end up buying it secondhand, and again, often at inflated prices. So that's the stuff that kind of annoys me, because if I did want to have, because most of these, if I really do like it and I see it out and about for a reasonable price, I will rebuy it with the case. More Devin Townsend. Devin Townsend project this time. Key, Addicted, DJ Shadow. I've got both those intact. Dillinger Escape Plan. I got a lot of their stuff in here because there was a period where I bought all their albums. Calculating Infinity. That's the one with Mike Patton. What's that? Under the Floorboards, what it's called? What's that? Miss Machine. Deftones, Diamond Eyes. Don't know where the disc. I think the disc for that might be in there as well. Lots of Deftones. White Pony, Koi no Yokan. Self-titled. Look at all those. Oh, I'm sorry, my hand's blocking. Sorry. Elliott Smith. So I've done reviews on him before. Like a lot of these I have intact. So I've got 2 copies. EXO, Either Or, Basement on the Hill. Is that Roman Candle, I think? See, again, these things are not easy to find. And when I'm saying this as a New Zealander, you're not going to find these in most CD stores. I mean, music stores. You're not going to find them in the secondhand shops. Very, very, very rarely. So what was I saying in my life story? So yeah, I guess that's it, isn't it? I living overseas, and I had no choice. So I just kind of thought, I don't want to throw these away. I don't want to sell them. I want to keep them. So I thought, okay, I'm going to throw the discs away and just keep, in some cases, the artwork as well, the booklets and the disc. I regret it, but I had no choice. Like literally. I was going to, I went and worked overseas in another country for seven years. So no one's going to store boxes and boxes of my shit for 7 years. It's not going to happen. ITV, a New Zealand band from the 90s. Actually, you do see their stuff around sometimes. That was when they had a bonus disc. That's a Ellengarden. Ellengarden are a Japanese kind of pop punk band. Faith No More, Real Thing, Angel Dust, King for a Day. Got most of those intact. B-Sides collection, Album of the Year, Fantomas, Fresca. This, like, you're never gonna find Fresca anywhere. Fresca, Fall Out Boy, Flaming Lips, Fun Loving Criminals, Grantley Buffalo. And so this is some good shit in here. The Helicopters, Swedish rock and roll band in the vein of like the Hives, but preceded them. Some CDRs, Interpol, INXS, Jeff Buckley. I've talked about this before. I said when I did the review that I had the black disc. So the review the copy that I reviewed had a blue disc of Grace. So this is the black disc of Grace. Korn, Jerry Cantrell, Boggy Depot. It's a fucking great album. Cronus Quartet, modern classical music. Korn, Catatonia, lots of Catatonia. So we got Tonight's Decision, Brave Murder Day, Night is the New Day. Was it the Long Cold Distance, or was it the Cold Hard Distance? Viva Emptiness, Limp Bizkit, got those intact. Probably recognize that. The Led Zeppelin greatest remasters, got that intact. Michael Jackson, Mr. Bungle. These, you have a look and see how much Mr. Bungle goes for nowadays. So this is their the self-titled, and this is Disco Volante. Do I have California? Where's California? I think I sold California. That's another thing. I sold. I said like I had no choice. So a lot of stuff I also sold. I kept about a quarter and sold about 75% of it. And have subsequently rebought it back God knows how many times. Manic Street Preachers, I've got those intact. Massive Attack, Madonna, Metallica, Saint Anger. Mastodon, that's another Japanese band. The Mad Capsule Markets, I got that as a gift from a student, I remember. Mastodon, more Mastodon. Miles Davis, Mars Volta, Muse, 9 Inch Nails. Neurosis. Fuck, my hand keeps covering it, sorry. This is a great album. Times of Grace by Neurosis. Now, Neurosis are a doom metal. There might be a better description than doom metal, but to me they sound quite doomy. They, I don't think, exist anymore. The lead vocalist, Scott, what's his name? Whatever his name is, Scott something. He came out about a year ago and admitted to pretty terrible domestic violence against his family. Like, I don't know in detail, but the way he talked about it sounded pretty bad. And he kind of, like he said, I did this. It was terrible. I will never make another. I'll never release any music ever again. I will never post anything. Like, basically, this is the end of my public life. But this is a great Times of Grace. They've got what's that? Through Silver and Blood. I was gonna say Through Silver and God. I think it's Through Silver and Blood, or Through Blood and Silver. It's another great album. Nevermind by Nirvana. Bleach. One Day as a Lion. One Day as a Lion is the project with Zach De La Rocca and John Theodore. Zach De La Rocha from Rage Against the Machine, of course, and John Theodore from Mars Volta, as well as many, many other projects. Oak and Gorski, someone gave that to me as a gift. I've listened to it through once. Not my kind of thing. Opeth, shitload of Opeth here. Orchid, Morning Rise, My Arms Your Hearse, Still Life, Blackwater Park, Deliverance. Almost one of their albums. Damnation, Ghost Reveries, Heritage, Watershed bonus album. So I was a big Opeth fan. I think I've talked about this before. I was a big, big Opeth fan. But I wanted to keep their albums. This is the only way I could do it. But again, if I was going to re-buy all this stuff, but I don't know. Is it like why does it matter? I have the music. At the end of the day, what I care about is the music. I've said before that when I buy things secondhand, which is what 99% of what I buy is secondhand, all I care about is the quality of the sound. I don't care if the booklet's a little bit tattered or the plastic's a bit cracked or something. So really, should I really worry? Is it that big a deal that it's just the disc? I still have the music. I even have the booklet in most cases. I'm trying to kind of talk myself into it here. I don't know. Page and Plant, No Quarter. This is that they did that kind of like unplugged, kind of, or like not really. It's partly unplugged, but also with other instrumentation, like Moroccan, North African, Berber instrumentation. The version they did of Gallows Pole in particular. I'll tell you what. You want to see something amazing? Go online onto YouTube and search for Page Plant, Jools Holland, Gallows Pole. So it's a live version they did of the Gallows Pole from this era, the Page and Plant No Quarter era. They did on Jools Holland's show with the backing band. Who do they have? Like Paul Thompson from The Cure is playing banjo. I think what's his name? Michael. Is it Michael Lee on drums? Who's having the time of his life. There's a hurdy-gurdy player. Page is playing like a double-necked acoustic. It's such a brilliant, brilliant rendition. The Wall, Pink Floyd. Postal Service, talked about before about that album, how much I love it. Pavement, Brighten the Corners, coming towards the end here. Paula Cole, Chili Peppers, One Hot Minute. So you can see, whoa, shit, what happened to that? Look at that. Why is it all fucked up? That wasn't like that last time I looked. That's not a good sign. Rise is a Japanese funk hip hop metal band. Actually, very similar to the Chili Peppers. I think that's where their main inspiration. So yeah, I actually have a few other folders full of, not as big as this, not the 4x4s. They're the little single leaf, like this size. So yeah, I guess the other purpose of these was not just for people who threw away their cases, was also for people who wanted to transport their CDs, like while traveling or in the car, something like that, overseas. So yeah, I guess when I look at that and I see there's a lot of like great stuff in there, or great for me, like Opeth and Faith No More. I'd say about a quarter of the stuff in there I've rebought, and I have the case. Like, what was one of them, for example? It's the first one I saw, Cassius. So you saw Cassius was in there with just the disc and the booklet. Well, I've subsequently rebought it secondhand. I think I got it for $1. So if I do see them out and about, and they're cheap, 50 cents, $1, $2, I will usually rebuy them because I want to have the full artwork back and front. But I don't know. Now that I think about it, kind of like I said, I'm kind of like trying to convince myself I have the disc. I can still listen to the music, and at the end of the day, that's what's important. So yeah, that's, I guess, a little bit about the history of my collecting over the years, and the loss through being stolen and sold and thrown away and lost and many other things, half thrown away, like in the case of these. I guess that's what happens. And now I'm a bit older, and I'm in a situation where I can't see myself moving overseas again. Although, you never know, do you? You never know. I say I can't see myself, but actually I can see myself. But at least for the time being, what am I going to do if that happens? If I move overseas again, like for work or something, or what's going to happen to all this? What am I going to do with these? I think I would just give a lot of them to charity, and or maybe actually I'd put online or sell a lot of them. I don't know. Hopefully that doesn't happen. Hopefully I can kind of secure life here back home in New Zealand. All right, guys, thanks for watching.